That committee is not going to be the only place to get involved, but it is going to be an important piece. We need to develop a terms of reference for that committee and for the broader process. We're also planning to host another forum that will provide an opportunity for a very large number of people from a range of different interests to sort of get an update and provide feedback to where we are by the end of 2010. 2011 and 12, we're looking to actually do that planning work and actually develop something together that we could submit to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans as, you know, sort of a draft recommended plan that we could take forward as a first step towards this kind of management sort of model, if you like. Well, my preference would be that a discussion around what we mean by conservation is a part of the planning process. I think there are all kinds of different ways that you can achieve conservation. And so one of those ways might be something like, did you mention MPAs? Was that what you referred to? That's one tool. There are all kinds of other ways that we can achieve different conservation objectives, but that's all part of a discussion around how to achieve your objectives in a plan. So I don't know that I have or would want to forward sort of an authoritative, this is what we mean by conservation and this is how we're going to achieve it. I think that's part of the discussion we're looking to have. So there's all kinds of questions here. Can I suggest I'm just going to run through a couple more slides and we can get through this and then we can jump to questions? So that's one of the tools that we intend to use to achieve conservation objectives, but it doesn't need to be the only one. So in terms of the SECOA, as I mentioned, it's an acronym, so it's a bit easier to say than the long line at the top of the slide there. This is intended to be sort of a key component of that knowledge base to support the marine planning exercise. The report itself, as I think I've already mentioned, profiles the sort of the status of these different activities or different cultural features or features of communities that we believe are important. It identifies perhaps some of the issues that arise with respect to those different features, and how are all of these things interacting? Can we capture, you know, what they mean to each other, and again, where are they going in the future? So what we're looking for is, Joy, to get to your question, how is the information that gets plugged into this report going to feed into the planning process? Where does it go? What does it become a part of? Well, we're looking for this to provide some sort of baseline information that could help inform a discussion about what are our different objectives for this planning process with respect to socioeconomics or culture. What do we want to try and achieve in a plan that will sort of help preserve or sustain the things that are important to us in those ways? It can also be a useful source of information to start asking, well, where are there compatibilities around some of these different objectives or some of these different features and activities, and where might there be the potential for conflicts? And lastly, as we sort of get to the point where we're actually developing strategies for all of this, what does it mean if we choose strategy A over strategy B? What are the implications of our choices? So that kind of baseline information can also be useful in that respect as well. So I think this is my last slide. This workshop, to sort of, I guess, restate what Rick has already spoken to, is intended to sort of provide an opportunity, one of multiple opportunities, for people to say what might this how might this report look? How can we make this valuable? How can we ensure that it's accurate? How can we help ensure that it's somewhat comprehensive? And how can we represent the information in a way that's going to be useful to something like a planning exercise? Just to let you know, in more immediate terms, what's going to happen with the feedback. We have people taking notes throughout the session. Those notes will be compiled into a proceedings report, which will be made available to everyone here and posted probably on the Pensima website would be the logical place. We're also videotaping the plenary sessions, and those video recordings will also be available on the website for those of you in the room who want to see this all over again. Or who want to share it with your friends. And then once the actual SECOA report itself is done, that also will be released and made publicly available. And we're intending for that to happen later this spring. Okay, so finally done talking and happy to take questions. I guess we're probably pushing a little bit against our time, but okay, well, I can try and answer your first question. I would probably refer to the consulting team as the more appropriate source to give you details on which of them is doing what. But the names that you mentioned there in your second question are all members of the consulting team who are here today to sort of, listen and provide some feedback on how they're doing things. With respect to your first question, where does this project fit within the hierarchy of DFO? So DFO has a number of different branches within it. There's a fisheries and aquaculture management branch, and there's an oceans habitat and enhancement branch, and then there's a number of other branches. This project is being led on the DFO side by Oceans, which sits within the Oceans Habitat and Enhancement branch. But the initiative itself is not, this is intended to be a collaborative initiative. So as much as DFO has an important role in leading and facilitating this, it's also important that we're bringing lots of other parties to the table. So with respect to that collaborative sort of intention behind this initiative, we have, for example, a memorandum of understanding with First Nations, which outlines some provisions for collaborative governance. We also have, in the Oceans Act, clear direction to, I wish I had the quote with me, ensure collaboration with all interested parties in the development of integrated management plans. There are structures that allow us to interact with our federal government counterparts who have some authority or mandate in the marine environment. Similarly, we have the same sort of thing with the provincial government. So there are a number of ways that this is importantly collaborative, and a number of structures or processes that we have in place to support that. I think when Gary comes up to speak, he can give you a better answer to your second question.